mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. You know I be on a what? Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. It's all hard, ain't no fear here. You ain't giving this to all, you steer clear. Never beat, I've been down and I reappear. You got some money on the line, you better put it here. Rolling in and doing that work. Check priorities, I'm doing that first. Checks big and I'm sure that hurts, but it's checkmate, we ain't selling short, know the work. Ain't nowhere to hide. You ain't gotta see me come and keep me on your mind, cause I be on the work.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dane from NYYU. We'd like to welcome you to a very special farm report. Carlos happened to get sick today, so we got Francis filling in for him, freshly back from Tampa, and we have our good friend, Mr. Bobby Malone. Bobby Baseball, how are you, sir?
Very well, very well, very well.
So let's get into spring training. What have you guys seen? Francis, you just got back from down there.
Yeah.
What are you guys seeing so far?
I'll go since I'm fresh off the plane. I don't want to forget anything. I'm seeing a lot of great things. I got to be honest with you. I'm seeing a lot of great things. I laid eyes on Spencer Jones in person. Listen, everybody knows how I feel about, the trade him, don't trade him stuff. So I won't get into it just yet. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
We will.
But I will say, seeing him in person, seeing how, just how he moves out there, what he looks like out there, I get it. Right. I get where the hype comes from. He's definitely, it's tantalizing, right? You just see somebody that, that physical specimen up there. It's like, okay, this guy is, you see the potential. And this is even before he grabs a bat, starts swinging, or, you see him play the outfield. Just looking at him, you can see it. It's one of those things. Outside of that, I would say the pitchers who I was able to see live were pretty impressive. I got to see Warren just before getting on the plane yesterday. I saw some things on Twitter. I guess people weren't too high about the outing yesterday, but being there in person, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Just seeing how he looks out there, how professional he looked out there, how ready and comfortable he looked. He got in some trouble early on with good reason. I mean, they got Jackson Holiday leading off the Orioles.
Yeah.
It's not his fault necessarily, right?
Right.
But he looked really good. So I think the two players who I laid eyes on in person that stood out to me the most, I would have to say, would be Spencer Jones and Will Warren. Yeah.
So, Bobby, what are you seeing from the kids this spring?
I mean, I think what I'm most impressed with, Spencer Jones. How many pitchers, what pitches he has seen without, right?
100. It was at 107 before he missed one.
That's incredible for where he was last year to now. I think that is pretty much standing out. And Clayton Beater, right?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. And Mr. Heel yesterday, right? Going 80, 98, 99, and then touching 100.
Yeah, to get Harper.
Yeah. Those two people, Will Warren, I think, the thing about him is I think it's still commanding all his pitches. I think you have mentioned he could have up to 6 different pitches.
6 or 7 he throws.
Right. So it's now focusing maybe on 4 and building off on that command. So I've been impressed by it. And then, of course, and I know he's not a kid anymore, but Nick Birdie, right? Is that his name?
Yes, Nick Birdie.
Yeah,
Dirty Birdie.
Right, 100 miles. I remember him back at Louisville in 2014 when he got drafted, and his brothers got drafted. So seeing their seeing those arms is kind of special. That's kind of where it stuck out. And Evanson and Pereira's been looking. I'm kind, and I feel bad for Peraza going down. So it's been the whole gamut of stuff that's been taking place from the little. I haven't been honest with you. I've been working during the day, so it's just box score watching some of the games on the weekend. But overall, I can't. I'm very excited to see what the minor league season is going to look like for some of these guys.
Now, we had a report out from Baseball America this weekend that they predicted Spencer Jones to be the number one overall prospect in baseball this time next year. Can you guys see that from what you've seen so far in spring training, why they would feel that way?
Go ahead,
Oh,
Bob.
I mean, go ahead, Francis.
No, I was going to let you go.
Oh yeah, I mean, somebody who like I follow a draft pretty religiously over the years. Spencer Jones is somebody I looked around this time was about 3 years ago, I guess in 2021, right? He get drafted.
Yeah, 22.
22. So it was 22. It was the spring of 22, and I was like, I really do not want to go in this direction. The reports was he's a tall, lanky kid. But then over a course of like 2 months, and I knew about him when he was in high school in California. He had a Tommy John surgery.
You ever seen him pitch?
Yeah, you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was supposed to be a pretty decent pitcher.
That
looks like Clayton Kershaw.
Nice bender. Yep, nice bender.
Yep.
And when he got the injury, I guess he just went to the outfield, and he did play some first base.
Right. I've been very, very impressed with him. I think that the swing and miss cut down, going 100 pitches without swinging and missing for anybody's impressive. But for a kid that had a 30% strikeout rate last year, the improvement is absolutely fantastic. I don't know. Francis, do you think he can be number one overall?
It's tricky. I don't want to sound like I'm down on him or anything, because I'm not. I just think when we start to hear these things in March, like of 24, and they're telling me that let's project to March of 25, it's hard. A lot of things can happen, right? I feel like if we're just gonna go off what I saw up to now at this point in spring, then I can 1000% see him being number one next year. The tools are there. He plays an amazing center field. He played even when he was in left. Like, he has a great glove out there. He moves extremely well. The routes that he takes are very good. Like, so that, like, the defense side is something that I don't think gets talked about a lot, but it's also something to be really excited about. Like, I don't know how that's going to progress when he does make the big leagues, but as of right now, he looks like he would arrive with a plus glove out there, possible gold glove, caliber.
He is. He's gold glove caliber.
So, like, so that's one side of the ball, and we already know about the hitting because that's all we hear about, and we saw, like you said, the big adjustment that he made coming into this spring, that paid dividends like I don't think anyone could have expected. So I guess at this point, yes, if we look at the trajectory he's on, he's only going to get better, right? We could say that, but you never know, right? I mean, where would you say he starts out the year?
Double A.
Double A, right?
I think double A.
Don't we always say that the best competition, for these prospects is probably down there in Double A? We're gonna see it. We're gonna see it. These next couple of months, and I'm not gonna judge them based off his May and June, but I hope that when we're looking down in July and August, we're seeing the same guy that I was able to see just now in March. Because if that's the case, then I 1000% think he'll be number one going into next year, and hopefully he's still in the Yankees organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at him, this is a name you guys only remember him maybe now. And my God, he just feel bad. He had a heart attack, I heard. Darryl Strawberry. When Darryl Strawberry came to the Mets in '83, I'm comparing his physical ability and his size and his stature. It was one of those freaks, that 6'6", cannon for an arm, can run in the outfield, can run the bases, could hit for homers. He was truly that 5'2" player. I think what a lot of people get scared with, and that's what the issue was with Strawberry, is the height.
Yeah,
it's the height thing. But everything we've seen so far, he's making the adjustment. And I don't know where I was reading this too. This is really like his third or fourth really full season.
Yes.
Since post Tommy John, where he's playing, every day. Yeah. So there could be another level that's gonna hit to him at some point.
Yeah.
We'll just have to sit and watch.
Yeah.
Now,
Can I say something? Because Bobby
please.
brought up an interesting point, and I was speaking about this with Pete in regards to Dominguez, right? Things. I don't maybe, and I want to ask you guys because you guys know a lot more when it comes to the prospects and their experience, in the minor leagues than I do. But it feels like, as a fan or somebody who knows a little bit, it feels like a lot has changed post the 2020 COVID year. Like just the way and I know, guys like Dominguez lost, like, that whole year was a wash. But for even somebody like Spencer Jones, he came after the fact, 2 years after the fact. But I feel like you can still see kind of like the ripple effect of 2020, in that, like, there's guys who kind of like lost a year and lost an opportunity, who are kind of like now hanging out down there in those lower levels. And like, they're almost like in no man's land because, for instance, an Everson Pereira, you brought him up, Bobby. He looked good. He's a guy who I was able to see now in March, in spring training. He looked good. He looked decent out there. He looked a lot more comfortable than when I last saw him in the Bronx. But I wonder, like, what would happen with a guy like that? Because with Spencer Jones, looking like Spencer Jones, and the Yankees having the outfield that they do, like, what happens to guys like that?
That's a great point. And that lost season, it's, you got to remember, Pereira came in, I think he was the third top 3 or top 5 in the
top 5 in
international
his class.
I remember him being a high pick. Yeah.
And when you had that lost year, and some people did private training, which is not the same. Some went to the Caribbean, some went back to Venezuela and places like this. I think this is where scouting and development over the next even 3 to 4 years, I think this is going to linger on until like 27 to 28. And I think maybe around then, by that time, it kind of catches up, because you have kids, you got to think now, who were in high school, at least by their junior year through college. So you have like a 6 year gap, 7 year gap, that you don't, when 1 year taken out, you don't know that true ability. And that's why, I don't know if you guys noticed this too, and Birdie is a perfect example. We're seeing now even relief pitchers who are 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, who are now finding it.
Yes,
right?
they are.
And making, I remember I don't know which roster I was looking at. It could have been the Mariners roster near where you are. Yeah. And I saw a lot of like 29, 30, 31-year-old guys. And it kind of makes you wonder, this is where really you pay your dues now in scouting in your terms of development. Because one little adjustment that was missed because of missed development could take your prospect to another level, and you have that cheap prospect for 5, 6, 7 years of control.
Yeah. I think that we've seen such a drastic improvement in the scouting since 2019. I mean, the Yankees haven't really missed in the draft or in international free agency since then. And they're actually being able to develop not only pitchers, but with their bats too. Greg, the guy, does a phenomenal job writing for us. He's always big on the undrafted free agents that we sign. And there's some talent there from that COVID year. I think that this Yankee system is only going to get better and better as the year continues. It's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and that's one of the things that, he did a fantastic job the other day when he put his forward. And I mean, I complimented him on the time and the effort to put. It's not an easy thing. No, not at all. And he even did, I think, the complex league.
He did.
So yeah. So looking at it, I mean, it would not surprise me in the next couple of weeks we're going to see some trades. I mean, this is regardless of Cole or possibly an injury. I just think they need to clear some spots, because you're going to have the 23 class, especially their pitchers, who did not throw an inning last summer in any league, making their development. So this is something I was thinking about when we were talking about having this conversation, is how much not having that 15, hurts.
It does. There's just not as many places for kids to get innings. You have so many kids with talent that need innings, and there's no place to play them. Oseo Rodriguez was a guy last year. They got stuck in complex ball, and because he couldn't find an innings anywhere. And Carlos saw him this spring and he said he looks pretty good. But I mean, that's another talented pitcher that we signed for big dollars. And he's just sitting there. I don't know. This system is so deep. It's unbelievable.
I'll give you, before you go to, I'll give you another name that, like, talk about COVID, Ben Rice.
Yep.
He's the perfect example of what COVID did.
Yes, he is.
Right?
12th round pick or 15th.
Yeah. 12th round pick. Go ahead. Tell it.
12th round pick out of Dartmouth. He was always a on base percentage machine. And we have seen this change over the last year with him since he's gone to work with Judge's swing coach, where he has added this power. We haven't seen it yet this spring, but I think it's still in there. You don't hit 22 home runs in less than 250 at bats if the power's not legit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, that I mean, he missed, I think, in playing at Dartmouth, and I might be wrong, he played under maybe 50 or 60 games in 4 years or 3 years.
Right.
Because of missed seasons, and then I think Dartmouth missed 2 seasons, really. They missed the COVID season, and then they missed the other season. So he was just purely scouted on summer league ball.
Yeah. And he went to work on going and tryouts, trying to get people to notice him. He knew he wasn't going to get drafted high. He went and did a whole bunch of extra work to get eyes on him. And it's paying off in a big way for him. I mean, he's got a real shot to be our first baseman next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at it with Rizzo, his option is pretty team friendly, but you never know what happens, money wise going into the year. I know that they love having a guy like Ben Rice there in the fold who you can look at and say, hey, if we had to, he's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps out quite a bit.
I think what a lot of people really don't understand, I mean, and I think you guys who follow me online see, you got to look at the payroll projections over the next few years, right? And this is what we're talking about with Schnell, anything else, or getting Montgomery, or getting anybody who has money. If you're going to make a full commitment to Soto, I totally believe Soto is going to be here long term. Okay,
I do too, 100%.
100%. Okay, and you're going to, and that's going to be the blank check kind of a deal, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're doing that, you got to cut other ways. And I think where Hal sees it is through our farm system.
Right.
So we might see, kids come up, whether we like them or not, before going out and get somebody. I know everybody wants to get that superstar. Everybody likes the new, like I always say, the new toy under the tree, right? You want to get that new toy. But, I think, Cashman, what I usually say is what I hear from him over the years. And I have like a photographic memory when it comes to him for some strange reason. It should be on other things, but not him. But he always says to check what you have at home first before you make that move. And sometimes, like last year, like think about it. If we don't develop, meaning not we, they don't develop the guys in the Soto package, King, right? And who else was there? Brito,
Vasquez. Brito was a $25,000 sign. Vasquez was signed for $10,000.
Yeah.
And Drew Thorpe.
The Brito, man.
Right.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah. I mean, you get those guys. I mean, Drew Thorpe, I followed him in college, was a striker, but still, I mean, and he still could be a very solid. He doesn't throw necessarily too hard. But he gets people out with a changeup until to the point where, maybe they leave off the tram. Regardless or not, he won pitcher of the year in the minor leagues.
Yeah. I mean, that's special.
Yeah. I mean, like that's not, that's one of God knows how many players doing it. So he's got something to get that package together. Just tells you. And I say this to people who always criticize the Yankees, their farm, their development. They haven't. haven't produced anything. Well, you got that packet. You got Soto because of what your farm and what your scouts did and your development did in the past 5 years.
Exactly.
That's a great point, and I want to compound on that and say, a little bit to what Cashman speaks about when he makes comments like that. Not only did our farm and our development get us Soto, but they'll be a large part of the reason why we're able to keep Soto and offer him that blank check deal, because Hal knows in the back of his mind, Volpe's not making money for a long time. Dominguez isn't making money for a long time. Wells is not making money for a long time. Schmidt doesn't make anything. Will Warren will be, is going to be a contributor this year. He's not making anything. Beater, these are all of these guys, they don't make any money for a long period of time. They don't even see arbitration for a while. Because of that, that's why they can sit across from Soto and Boris next offseason and say, yeah, what's it going to take? Because we're going to be dependent on these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the longest time, at least for the last 4-5 years, or when he first came up in 2018 and 19, was Soto becoming a Yankee, right? Mm-hmm. He was, and I remember 5 years prior to that, it was either Manny or Harper, and they whiffed it on those two, and that's a different story. But they got Soto now, right? Right. I can't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys educate me. I can't think of who is that next. We're gonna get him in another 4 or 5 years. I don't know who that player is, right? So if that's the case, you got the best there is at 25 years old, right? The next thing is to build around that, right? And to do it, and you can't knock their farm system if you average it out between all of the 5 major outlets. It's I think 7.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So, and that's with trading the pitcher of the year in the minor league. I mean, think about that.
Yeah. I mean, they had 7 top 100 prospects, a couple other guys that just missed on a certain list. I mean, the farm system is loaded, but how do we get all these guys in the lineup is the question. We want Soto here long-term. No question about that. You have Jason Dominguez, who looks like he could be a mini Juan Soto someday if everything goes right. You have Spencer Jones, who looks phenomenal. And you're going to have Judge long-term. How do we keep all 4 of those guys in the lineup and together?
Francis, you want to answer this one? It's an obvious answer.
I tell you right now, there's a spot in that lineup called designated hitter. That's and I think what behooves the Yankees long term, especially with a guy like Judge, as we're seeing now, dealing with the possible oblique, they're calling it an abdomen injury. They always got these new created names for the injury. But yeah, I think what we're seeing is a guy who, if we're gonna have him in the lineup more often than not, is a guy who's probably going to need to take his fair share of bats at DH. And listen, as young as Juan Soto is, if we sign him to that blank check deal, I want him to be able to get a couple days at DH too. I'm not saying as much as Judge or anything like that, but he's going to need his DH days. Dominguez will need his DH days. Even Spencer Jones. It'll be the 4 of them. You rotate them in and around. You know what I mean? Yeah. But ideally, that's how you make it work.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, I think and you absolutely nailed it. Stanton's days are numbered.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do think unless something, completely tanks, his number goes down to 66 million after this year. It's a little easier to move. But
do you think he's movable, or do you think you have to eat it?
Depends. If you tell me he hits 25 to 30 home runs, plays 120 games, and has like 750, 800 OPS, which is possible. I mean, I think you can move him to possibly to the Padres, or let's think. What are his options? The Padres, the Angels, or the Dodgers? Who's he going to?
It ain't going to be the Dodgers.
One thing I don't know about the Dodgers are strange, and they have made a lot of deals with the Yankees.
That's true. They have.
Okay. They're a strange bird. For some reason, it seems like every deal this winter has been with the Dodgers.
I I think
They
we're
matched.
I agree with you, and I think we're just as strange. When I look at it, I'm like the Yankees and Dodgers are very strange because these are possibly the consensus picks, they were at a time before the Yankee injury stuff. Like a lot of people were saying, like, yeah, this I could see this being the World Series. And they
Yeah.
traded with each other several times, not just this offseason, but over the past couple of years. It's weird. I can't remember that in recent history. Two powerhouses that trade so often with each other.
Why? Let's examine this because this answers a great question. A great question. A lot of people ask: why do they trade with each other? Why do we think? I kind of know the reason, but why do you guys think they trade with each other?
Because they both do a phenomenal job at development.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the most important thing, I think, the GMs know each other.
Mm-hmm.
They trust each other. They're not going to BS each other. And I think right now they've been even so helping each other.
They have been.
Helped him with the Gallo trade. Help him bail him out when he needed 2 roster spots this year. So it's give and take. What people don't understand when they look around and they say, "Oh, I want to get," they're talking about getting Cease right now. Okay, that's a new general manager in Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
That GM is going to want to win that trade. He is going after Spencer Jones.
He needs to win that trade, though.
Right? I mean, let's be realistic here.
That's the problem.
So when people say to me online, well, why are you talking about that crappy player or something like this? Because Cashman and their GM work well together. It's an easy thing to do. You need players, you need teams with players that the GMs work well to each other. That's why we cannot get anybody from the Marlins because they have a new GM as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not gonna want Peraza and Pereira. They're gonna want a lot more.
They want the
name. They did.
That's a great point, Bobby. I'm glad you bring it up because you know who it reminds me of, who I think got a raw deal, especially on his way out, Chaim Bloom. I don't think Chaim Bloom did a half as bad a job as some people have made it seem over the last couple of years. I think he came into a very tough situation. Ugly contracts, not the best farm. The farm was not in the best situation. A team that was, not really that well built to compete. And he had to make tough decisions early on. And it maybe didn't look like he won any of those deals, but he replenished that farm system. And I think they're at a point today where you can be excited about some of the guys in that system. And I think a lot of that has to do with him, but somehow he never beat the allegations because he made that deal as soon as he got there. So it's true. If I'm Getz, do I want to trade Dylan Cease if a name like Spencer Jones is not on the return package? I don't know.
I mean,
he may never beat the allegations.
I mean, it's pretty well known that, Cashman's style does not work well with the new modern GMs. So that's why you see him making trades with people he knows, which, Preller knows him a long time. That's why they made that trade. But Seattle, let me think. Seattle is one of them. Pittsburgh. Right. The Cardinals has been one over the past. The Cubs, he knows the Cubs people well. So those teams are Philadelphia. I mean, if they were going to make those, you're going to be where you're going to be targeting, because you could call up somebody and say, we're going to offer you, and then they're not pulling your leg. You're not trying to scam anybody. Some of these newer GMs, are looking for a home run and want 30 to 40, maybe even 50% more what a player's worth because it's going to take one, the philosophy is to win for most teams, right? It's like to win now. Yeah. The Yankees have always been a win now team. And because you're a win now team, you just don't give everything away because you're expecting that window to be open for many years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's what they always talk about. The Yankees windows never really close. It's always open.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that if they retain Juan Soto and build this new core with Dominguez, Wells, Volpe, Jones, I think that window stays open even longer with Cole and Judge not having to be the main guys. At least that's what you would hope to see.
Yeah.
And with all the arms that we have coming, we're going to have some really good pitching coming in the next few years. But we got to talk about the Gerrit Cole thing because everybody's going to want to. what do you do? What do you guys do?
Yeah.
What do you
Uh,
think, Francis?
I'll come out and say right now it's really hard to say which direction I'd go because the Yankees aren't being as forthcoming, which is natural, I guess. But if Gerrit Cole is going to miss any prolonged period of time, this might get me banned by some fans because I know the initial thing is like go out there, grab Blake Snell, sign him, pay the tax and be done with it, or give Chicago whatever they want for Spencer Jones. I don't necessarily make the deal right now because of the fact that our leverage is where it is.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, I know that's not going to endear me to with many fans, but I don't ever like making deals when our leverage is in the crapper. And right now, with the Gerrit Cole stuff, that's where our leverage is when you talk about the pitching front. If you're going to talk to the White Sox about Cease, if you're going to talk to Boris about Snell or Montgomery, you're operating from a position of weakness. So right now, I'd try to figure out a way to maybe take a longer look at some of the guys that we maybe looked away from already and said we're going to start them in the minors, maybe reconsider there, I don't know, and then maybe come deadline time try to make a deal, maybe re-engage Getz and Chicago and see if we can't make it to the deadline with what we have. Again, risky, very risky.
It is risky, but I think that's a smart baseball move is to wait when we're not having all of our leverage gone. I think that we talked about Warren and Heel and Beaters. I think those guys can play a much bigger role than we were expecting.
Mhm.
Luis Heel absolutely looked phenomenal to me yesterday.
Yes, he did.
The addition of the changeup and the cutter makes him much more of a starting pitcher option for me than just when he just was throwing fastball slider. If he can, if the control stays where it was yesterday, I mean, he's a top of the rotation starter stuff at least. I think you have to investigate that before you go out and give up your prime pieces on the farm.
I think if you look around, and somebody mentioned this to me about if you look at the two teams, the Braves and the Dodgers, and they're the two of them using players from the farm in their staff. Spencer Strider came out of nowhere.
Right.
Who's that? Bryce Elders, is that the other guy in there?
Yeah.
And they have a few other people, and then you look at the Dodgers and who they have. Like you said, who are you going to give as an example? If Heel it was on a different team right now, or Clayton Beater was on a different team right now, how many Yankee fans would be like, "Oh, that's what we need"? You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
How many guys do you know throwing 100 miles an hour? Now, the thing that I hear all the time, and they're not true starting pitchers. They're 4, 5, 6 inning pitchers. Well, that's everybody in baseball now, pretty much.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the common. It's common now.
Okay. So I was reading today about Beater maybe going up through the lineup 2 times. Maybe if he added a changeup, he could go around the 3rd time. Same thing with Heel. If the two of them could deliver 4 or 5 innings, and you have a bullpen of 8 guys that are really 13, 14, maybe even 15 deep, rotated throughout the year. If you could have some options guy up there, you don't worry about it. I understand, you're taxing your bullpen, but it's who you're taxing your bullpen, right? If you're taxing, your closer or your setup guy or your second setup guy, and they're pitching 60, 70 appearances a year, then that's the issue. But what I think where Cashman has been doing a good job is understanding you're going to need at least 2 players who are long guys in the pen, and you're going to probably need 2 players who have options in the pen who could be sent up and sent down. You could get away with that 4 or 5 inning pitcher. But to get back to that point, like it's you, and you guys have mentioned this. Would you rather see Heel pitch or make a trade for, I'm going to throw it out there, with the Angels for Tyler Anderson? Like, what would you rather do?
Heel. No
I'd
question.
rather Heel. I'd rather.
Okay. Would you rather have him sign Lorenz? What's his name? Lorenz?
Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Lorenzen. No.
or Heel? Who would you rather have?
No.
Heel.
I mean, I don't even know if Clevenger is but who would you rather see pitch?
Yeah,
Clevenger or
not Clevenger? Not
Clevenger.
We can go down.
exactly.
It could be Clevenger, Syndergaard. I don't want any of them.
Exactly.
No.
I don't, and to the point that you mentioned, right? Because it's true, right? You don't want to tax your pen. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. But here's the but for me. If I do have to start the year without Gerrit Cole, like, let's be honest, if Gerrit Cole's out for the season, that changes things completely. Like, and there's really probably not much that you can do to replace a Gerrit Cole, which is why I don't feel like trading from a position of weakness to get Cease or spending the ridiculous amount of money it might cost to get a Blake Snell really behooves us, because neither one of them is Gerrit Cole. So if we stay with what we have and stay the course and say that we're going to give guys like Beater, guys like Heel, guys like Warren, like just give them a more increased role early on, I like it, especially if Cole's supposed to come back at some point throughout the year. And if we tax our pen, fine, we tax our pen. But let me tell you, you know what's a lot easier to find at the deadline than most other things? Relief help. It's always out there at the deadline. So if we tax the 13, 14 guys that we use to get us to July, then we grab 2 or 3 more in July. But
here's the great part about
whatever.
Here's the great part about what we have already. We have Scott F. Ross and Lou Trevino coming back around the deadline that are both very good arms.
You know, good deadline moves.
He loves those deadline deals from within.
I mean, you guys listen to Jim Bowden. He always says the best thing that Cashman could do that he couldn't do is build a pen. I'm not worried about the pit. It's who you tax in the pen. Okay, we had, last year it seemed Abreu was coming out of the pen almost. I mean, when you have guys like that, then you get a little nervous and stuff like that. But they have Morris, they have Poteet, right? Is that his name, right?
Yes,
they have him. I mean, you have other players that are possibly even, who are going to be Neely, Watson. Who let's be honest, if they were on other teams,
they would be getting a shot right now.
They'd be getting a shot right now.
Yeah.
So the best hope, and somebody asked me, what do I think about, Cole Hall? I think it's probably, a couple of months that he has something. If it's, personally, what I think it is, and I don't think it's Tommy John. I think it could be bone chips. And if it's bone chips, it's still a very serious thing. And you're talking about 3 to 4 months. Right. So you're looking at even Cole being your deadline move, right?
Exactly.
And I just said this to Dane, before we got on here, is if you're telling me, would you sign up for Cole being ready July the 1st? Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
I mean, and to tell me, I don't know. I mean, you guys probably seen a lot of ball too. I don't know how many people with Tommy John is still throwing 95, 96, 97. So a lot,
many.
It could be just something in the elbow that he wants to know what it is. Now, if it is a tear and it is, Tommy John, it was like with last year with DeGrom, right? What happened to them? Did they give up? Did they say their season's over? They won the World Series.
Yeah.
And the players they had go, I mean, Jordan Montgomery, what was their staff? Montgomery, who was it?
Evaldi.
Who else? I don't even know who the third guy was.
They had guys come back. They had Scherzer, John Gray come back. It was Johnny Holstaff, really.
So let's not. I mean, of course, people saying it's the end of the world on March the 12th. I mean, of course you hope for the best, right?
Right.
But you don't know who's going to step up in those positions. And I think right now, if you ask GMs across the league, would they want Warren, Heel, and Beater on their team? I think all 20 other 9 GMs would love to have those 3 guys.
Yeah.
The ability to say that those 3 guys could be my spare part arms.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, the one thing that we haven't talked about at all is the lineup. What are you guys seeing with the lineup? What are you seeing in spring training from the guys that we expect to be on the starting 9? Are you excited? Are you excited with the changes Volpe's made? Are you excited with what you're seeing from Wells, Verdugo?
I saw Wells yesterday. He caught right after the Trevino game the day before. Wells looks amazing. Wells looks amazing. I liked what I saw from him. He threw a guy out, so I liked the way he looked there. There was one guy he threw out, one guy he didn't catch, which was fine. But the motion looked good. Pop time looked pretty decent. It's spring, so all these things will improve.
Right.
But again, I know that there's the knock with Wells on on the glove side of things, and that's why I was looking a little bit more intently there. When it comes to the bat, I don't know, man. You could say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever, but I'm really starting to think that Wells is a very special candidate offensively, and I think that he may even be underrated just because of the hype surrounding some of the other guys and prospects that we have. And I kind of like that place for him. I like the fact that he can kind of move under the radar and be a guy that pitchers maybe aren't game planning for and thinking about, who kind of ambushes him at the bottom of the lineup. I like that. I really think he's going to find success in that role this season. And I think having him batting, towards the bottom of the lineup is going to be a weapon. He's going to be a weapon down there. Volpe looks great too. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely about Wells, but I wanted to hear what you guys thought about Volpe with the swing change. That has been something. I was very tough on Anthony Volpe last year because of the uppercut. That wasn't the guy that I saw coming up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've seen Volpe since he was in high school. I saw him in this championship game over here near where I live in Hamilton, New Jersey. And I think what happened was he's on, he's 21, 22, feels the need for homers. He was not the same kid I watched. I'm no scout, but I'm a scout, a TV scout, right?
Right.
And I could see what he did for, through the minor league package that I watched when he was at Somerset. He's not the same player.
No.
And I don't want him to be a 30 home run hitter. To me, if he is a 15 to 20 home run hitter, but he's batting 275 and he's on base and he's stealing 35 to 40 bases and playing the defense, bingo, that was Jeter all these years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not to say that him and Jeter are the same player, but it's how you go about you doing your game. And getting back to Wells, if you look at Wells, and he was another one through COVID, mind you. Okay. Yes. All right. If you look at Wells all these years, Wells has always hit. And I think you could always see him being, a positive 800 OPS hitter.
Yes.
I think the catching thing is another thing that has turned off scouts because they, I think that's more of a word of mouth thing than an actual seeing thing. Because when I saw him catch, at Somerset or with the Yankees, it's a different kind of different kind of catcher than I read about him saying like he was like, oh, the worst thing in the world. He's a capable catcher. Yeah. And I totally agree with Francis. I think he's going to be somebody who's going to be surprising us this year.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm not too worried about his defense. To me, defensively, the glove work, the game calling, that's all a strong thing for him. He does that all really well. The only thing that's the real question is the arm, and it's a league average arm. It's not incredibly below average. It's not a bad arm. It's just an average arm. And with what he can bring to the bat, I think he's going to be an absolute fan favorite in New York for a long time.
Can I also say, I think his offense does something to our lineup that I think maybe not a lot of people aren't talking about, which is you saw Trevino his first game back. He was playing like his hair was on fire. Trevino's first game back the other day, I looked at him, getting stretched, getting worked out in the bullpen or whatever. This dude had his game face on like you wouldn't believe. He goes out there, I think he hits the first ball pretty much like a warning tracker, and then the second time he comes up, he hits a homer. Like Trevino is playing like his hair is on fire. Why? Because he sees Wells over there. He's not trying to get Wally pipped. So I like it. Like it because it's like, yeah, we got a competition brewing. It's like, and something that I complained about, for years leading up, to these last couple of years where it just didn't feel like we did these competitions. I felt like we were just rewarding guys with jobs. But like when I look at catcher this year, I mean, to me, it's really any man's guess which of the two, Trevino or Wells, catches more games throughout the year. I feel like a lot of people are going to lean towards Trevi, but I don't know if that's a guarantee. And I think Trevi himself is going to play and approach this season like it's not a guarantee that he's the number one starter just because Cole has the preference with him. So I like it. I like what it does for our lineup competition wise.
Now, one other thing, the batting lineup. Obviously, DJ's going to lead off, is what we've been hearing. You have Soto second, Judge third, Rizzo fourth. What's the rest of the lineup look like for you guys?
I'll have to go through it right now. So DJ's going to lead off, and I sigh, not because I think DJ is the worst leadoff hitter in baseball, because you can surely find probably 10 to 15 worse leadoff guys. I just feel like we traded for Verdugo, and I like the ability that Verdugo, is arriving here with. I think he could probably be a better option, at least, if we split, if we did one lineup against righties and one lineup against lefties. But assuming DJ is the one guy, Soto's two, Judge is three, 4, Rizzo, who's looked phenomenal this spring. And I feel like he's finally back. One thing for sure, he's seeing the ball again, which he was not after the whole concussion thing last year. 5 is likely going to be Gleyber Torres, which may shock some people because I think people initially just expect Stanton will be in the spot. But these last couple, I would say week and a half, 7 to 10 days, Stanton's been seeing a lot of reps at 6. So I think they're preparing him to go 6th. Ideally, I want him 7th. That's asking for a lot. But I think if you go Rizzo 4, Gleyber 5, and then Verdugo 6, and then Stanton 7 with Wells and Volpe rounding it out, to me, that's the best version of the lineup. But they'll probably flip Stanton and Verdugo, and Stanton will be 6, and then Verdugo 7, Volpe 8, Wells 9, and it'll turn over.
That bottom of the order is so much better this year than last year. Sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I totally agree with that. I totally word player by player. I think that's the way it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Now, when Jason gets back,
really different, Dan. You're right. It's been a while, right?
Yes, it's been a long time. But when Jason gets back, I want him in that leadoff spot.
Oh, he's the perfect. And Pete says this all the time, right? Ideally, if Jason comes back and he's the Jason Dominguez that we know and love, he's probably like the best version of a leadoff hitter that we could hope to have. Switch hitter. You're putting him in front of Soto, so he's protected by Soto on deck and judging the hole. I mean, can we
speed, plate discipline? Yeah, speed, plate discipline. He's got all the right things that you want to see at leadoff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like I said, when it comes to Dominguez, I mean, if he's in a minor league game and I think they're going to still play very slow with him by May the 1st, I would be kind of surprised. And you're like, oh, well, it's still like 6 weeks away. They're not rushing anything on a 21-year-old kid. So the way I look at it, could he be at the major league club come August the 1st? I mean, there's always 2 parts of a baseball season. There's, the pre-deadline and the post-deadline. You don't know what the post-deadline is going to look like and who's going to be here. And so right now, I think they take it very slow with him, build up, making sure he's on there. I don't think the power may not even come this year. I think he could be definitely a ways away with that. But, I still think that come September, he might be getting more game time than Verdugo.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me. By then, he's almost a year out from surgery.
Right.
They feel more comfortable.
Dominguez makes a heck of an in-house addition, though, around the deadline if you need the offense.
Look,
so
if Bobby, sorry to cut you off, Dane, but I just wanted to say what Bobby just said, and you bring it back to what he said about Gerrit Cole. You think about the post-deadline Yankees. If the Cole stuff does, turn out to be what we all kind of feel it's going to be, that he is going to miss at least a few months here. You're talking about a post-deadline Yankees team that would be receiving the likes of Trevino and Efros on the pen side, Gerrit Cole to the rotation, Jason Dominguez to the lineup. I mean, have a who else can have a deadline like that?
No
Nobody.
one.
Nobody has
and I'm gonna say you set me up right on a tee for this. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Probably, I don't know. If, we're still weeks away. The Yankee schedule, the first 2 months of the year, is absolutely brutal.
It's a gauntlet.
Okay, so I think I didn't do my review for the season, but
Right.
I'll just give you some drop some little tips right now. I'm gonna say do not expect them to be plus 10 wins come July the 1st. I think if they're plus 5 wins July the 1st, they're lucky. Okay, and we have to come off this or off our have to win the division. It's like football. Right now, baseball is like football. I'm not going to compare it to the other sports because other sports have everybody in there, right? Basketball's got like 12 teams in per conference, right? They just need to be one of the 6 teams.
Right.
Do I think they could be one of the 6 teams? Absolutely. I think if you've been looking at my post, they had 2,300 days on the IR. Now, granted, you put Cole and on there, it's going to boost those numbers, right?
Yeah.
But it's really who and what kind of contribute. Last year they lost Stanton, they lost Rizzo, they lost Judge, they lost Rodon, they lost Cortez. When you have those 5 guys gone, it's going to cause an effect, and they still won 82 games, right?
Yeah.
So if they cut that number, I don't think it's going to be cut in half. Okay, I'm a teacher, so I do my numbers, right?
Right.
If they cut that number down to 30% to 1,700 games or 1,600 games, they should be at least a 91, 92 win team. Right now, I have them probably, depending on Cole now, right? Even if Cole is out, there should still be an 89 to 91 game team. Okay, and that's just because, like, I think who wrote about this the other day? Was it Rosenthal? But the bats are deadly, right? If they're healthy, they're going to be deadly. And I'm not worried about who's the last spot on the bench. If the main players are there today, and I think you have witnessed this, I have not witnessed a player like Soto in a long, long time. That's a player who plays with confidence 24/7.
Yeah.
He does not care if it's in Tampa, and I'm damn sure he's not going to care if it's in the Bronx.
No.
And when you have those players, it makes the whole team. I think one of the biggest things we have seen is the players' lack of confidence, and I've written about this, of who's going to carry the baton, and we saw that last year with Judge being down.
Yeah.
Okay, if Soto is healthy, and even if Judge hasn't hit anything, home runs, whatever, I'm not worried. You got to win. The season to me really does not start until August the 1st.
Right.
For me personally. So let's see where they're on that August the 1st and that 60-game sprint at the end. And where they're going to get placed. I think the Orioles are still very good. I don't care what their pitching looks like. I don't care what Burns is doing in spring training. Still a very athletic young team. The Red Sox, I'm not. The 2 teams are, of course, the Jays and the Rays, and see what they do. But I think the Yankees are in a good place. Even if we get the worst news in the world tomorrow, I don't want people to be freaking out saying, "Oh, it's the end of the world." Okay. Yeah. Because it wasn't the end of the world for the Rangers, and they got a ring on their finger.
Yep, I agree.
There's no excuse. I don't think there's any excuse, even with, if it happens to be the worst of the worst with Cole. I agree with you, Bobby. I think that the Yankees have an offense that has every chance to be a historic offense. Like the writing's on the wall. If the players show up and do what they're supposed to, you just think of the names that we're talking about. Anthony Rizzo looks like Rizzo again. If DJ looks just like he looked this spring, no more, no less, you add Soto, Judge, Gleyber Torres, Verdugo, Young Wells, Young Volpe, Dominguez back after half the year. This offense can be straight up deadly. And you can call it a hot take if you want, I don't necessarily need the Yankees to win the division. I don't know if I necessarily want them to win the division. After what I saw last year with the division winners, I could
Yeah,
1000% see the Yankees being like one of those teams who they
absolutely.
playoff kills them. So
Yep.
I don't mind if the Yankees coming through the wild card and we got to start playing right away. Yeah, let's play. Let's play right away. Let's go into every series hot, warm, ready to go. That's how I want my team approaching those series. And if it's the Yankees, I think that's how they need to approach those series. I don't like the way we look after layoffs. So I'm with you.
I don't care what kind of kind of flack that, I get. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I know people will say it's bad, right? You're supposed to want us to win the division, but I don't know.
Listen, I've seen it in football with my Giants twice.
Same.
Right? Okay. And on the road, mind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You just
great teams.
Right. And you're gonna see it too. I'm a St. John's guy, and I say it, we got a game on Thursday. You want to be in the tournament, you got to beat Seton Hall, right? You got it. What is it? Survive and advance, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I think we see a lot of people, I've seen it already, people panicking wherever the season is over. It's an all-in season. We haven't thrown a pitch yet of real baseball, right? Even last year with all those injuries, they still won 82 games. If they had six, and I don't want to even go back and look and rack my brain, but if there was 6 more games or 7 more games that would have went that way, they would have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Crazy to believe. It's crazy when you think about it, but it's true.
So, all right, how many stupid games they blew last year, or on one dumb thing or another, or their one-run games? I'm not worried. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let it play out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one last thing we wanted to get into before you got out of here, because I know you're on a little bit shorter time tonight. I wanted to get you some draft thoughts from you.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I've started probably last fall looking at some names. Some of the names have changed. Some of the names have gotten hurt. I did put out a draft preview about a couple of weeks ago. One of the names is already out of the year on Tommy John surgery. I think it was Horn out of Coastal Carolina.
Yeah,
Darren Horn. Yeah, he actually got himself pretty hurt. And then there's been some other players. So I usually put a draft watch list of players, and what I look for is what is the Yankees model when they're looking to draft. I don't have any I've mentioned this, I don't have any high school kids. High school season hasn't started in most parts of the country.
right.
So it's a little hard to get an understanding of that. Do I think there's going to be high school kids? I do. And I think it's going to follow the model they did last year. You guys have talked about the kids they have. I think they got 4 high school kids last year, maybe, if I'm correct. Is a 4th grade. Titleman, the kid from Puerto Rico.
Tideman.
Yeah.
Tideman.
Danny Flat.
Lombard also.
And the kid from Puerto Rico.
Yes, and I've heard some really good things about the kid from Puerto Rico.
Yes. So when the draft comes, I expect 3 to 4, but I think they're going to be very college heavy. This is a very heavy pitcher year when it comes to pitchers all over the country. They tend to scout the Southeast Conference, the Southwest, California. That's where you're pretty much looking for. But I still, if you listening to Damian Oppenheimer, who's the director of scouting, bats are hard to get. Yeah. So I still think in the top 2 to 3 rounds, you're going to see some bats going. The bats that I'm looking at personally, I think Carson DiMartini out of Virginia Tech is one of them. He's a third baseman. Colby Shelton out of Florida. James Tibbs out of Florida State. Mm-hmm. And then there's a catcher. Let me just look. I just top of my head, I forgot his name. From
happens to me all the time.
And there's a lot of catchers this year from Arizona State that who I think is going to be. I want to make sure I got his name correct. Ryan Campos. I knew it was with a C. So those are the bats. This year is a big catcher class. Malcolm Moore. There's Jacob Cozart, who's coming out of North Carolina State. The question is, the draft itself and where they're placed. So because of the spending of the money, they are dropping 10 spots. So they're going to be in a 20. But as I was mentioning before, in the rounds 2 to 2, they're going to be at 16.
Yeah.
And
that's going to be a big advantage.
That's good.
Correct.
That's good.
I mean, this year, they're at pick. I know in the top 100, they're pick 26, 54, and I think 90. So that's 3 picks in the top 100. It would not surprise me, and I get heat sometimes by always saying this, because they have so many arms in the pen. Marinaccio or Gomez could be traded with a Roosevelt to get maybe a comp pick, which is in the 60s, right? 65, 66.
We spoke about Volpe being moved the other day. It's a very real possibility.
Yeah, so if they have lost 2 picks last year because they signed Rodon. So and they traded a lot this year. And there's also Rule 5 guys who are still gone. I was just reading that Sauer might be returning, but Spence and Carson Coleman might be still with their teams. So there's
I heard Carson Coleman was going to stay.
Yeah. So if you see that, you need arms. Yeah. And they do a great job. So I think we might see bats in the first 2 rounds. And then for pitchers, there's been a few pitchers that are really caught my eye. Ryan Prager out of Texas A&M had a phenomenal game this past weekend. He's coming off Tommy John. And Mason Molina from Arkansas is another one of my favorite. But then there's so many other arms. Parker Smith from Rice University is another player. And what I'm looking at are what do they throw, and do they spend time on the Cape, right? So if you ask me right now, I'm going through my list of pitchers. There's some. Bryce Cunningham is another one he's at Vandy, tall, fastball, slider guy. Hayden Smith is. I don't think he's going to be around by the time. Who just had that phenomenal game a few weeks ago for Arkansas, where I think he struck out 17 or 18 guys.
Holy cow!
Yeah, he might be in the top 15. But there's some other ones. They're Justin Santucci out of Duke. He might be around at pick 26. Him and Josh Hartle from Wake Forest had a really, they had a big build-up for a pitching matchup. I think one gave up 7 runs and the other guy gave up 8 runs. So it wasn't all that is. And Keith Law was at that game. And if you read in The Athletic, it wasn't something to the eye of the beholder. I think he got very disappointed on that. But I have right over here on my computer, my watch list. So I have Shelton and DeMartini in round 1. I have Tibbs and Campos in round 2. For round 3, Prager, Molina, and Cunningham, which is the 93rd pick. And then for their 4th pick, Parker Smith and Aiden Major, both also pitchers. And then for the 5th pick, Gage Zion from Miami. And I think it's Gavin Guidry from LSU. So I think they're going to be just following that pattern of what they're looking for, which is velo, spinability, projection, and I don't think stats matter at all, especially with pitchers.
Yeah,
it's hard to go by the stats when you're looking at college guys. I don't mean they don't matter, but I'm saying to put a lot of weight into them.
Yeah, and I want you guys to talk about this guy because you guys know about him, you guys have written about him, and I'm eager to hear it. Jackson Fisto. How is he good? I mean, he was somebody with a 7.5 ERA at Mississippi State. And now he's hitting 100, 101?
Yes,
what's going on with him?
He picked up some velocity at the end of last year. Greg has been incredibly high on him since we got him. He really thinks that he's going to be probably the breakout arm in the system this year. It's the secondaries that are going to be his defining what role he ends up in.
Yeah.
I mean,
he needs something to play off the Flames.
Yeah, if you know, I probably going to be a relief pitcher, I would think, or moving to relief pitching. But you had a Bryce Warraker, right? How you say his name?
Yeah, Warrecker.
Yeah, and you saw that, like, that was a guy who I was in love with prior to last year's draft, and they got him in the 20th round. A star on the Cape.
How I don't understand how that he got to the third to the last pick of the draft. We talked about this a little bit. There's something weird that happened there because there's no way.
I don't know any more facts, but usually when that happens, it's somebody whispering more money, or because there have been players, he's a COVID kid too.
Yeah,
right?
He is.
I mean, you go back and do that. I mean, I'm very, but he's also from a school that produced Drew Thorpe, right?
Right. He went to Cal Poly.
So him coming in there, Eden Smith, who I believe was a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
Is somebody that I know that Kyle Carr. Right. So, and I think there's also, there were some other picks. The 10th round pick, when I remember doing the day of the draft, I'm like, oh my God, why are they picking him? Is what's his
Josh
name?
Gross.
Henry.
Yeah.
Right? Who's going to be, I think he's 24, turning 25 during the season. But word is he's like hitting 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like 99. So what do I know? You know what I mean? They're finding these players, regardless of age.
Yeah.
This goes back to the point we were making before.
Yes, it does. All the way back to 2019 and this change in the scouting and developing. When they take these, we have had the opportunity to interview some of these kids from last year's draft.
Do a great job.
And every one of them talks about how the Yankees individualize a plan for each one of them. Yeah. They start having them throw motion capture games in balls, in the suits with balls, and getting them on the high-speed cameras and stuff. What they can do to build a pitcher now is phenomenal. It's like nothing I've seen in watching them, their pitching development in the last 20 years.
Well, I think a lot of, you guys look a little younger, but there was a period of time that I remember when I first started going over here with Mark Newman, who was the longtime player director. And it was basically scouts. And I'm not going to say they were lazy or anything like this, but it was an old time scout thing. And I think, Cashman finally realized that things needed to be changed. And when the change was made, you saw it in the 19th draft. The 19th draft was phenomenal.
It was
phenomenal. They had 3 picks in the 20th draft, the COVID draft. Wells, Trevor Hoover, when they traded him for, I forgot who they traded him for, and Back way, right? And you saw the other drafts where they are looking beyond what a stat sheet is, and seeing that. And the scouts too. Scouting is so much better than it was 10, 15, of course, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
everybody could pick up the movement on the ball, the amount of rotation, and there's so many more eyes on that player. Mm-hmm. And they're doing a great job. The Yankees pitching lab, I get made fun of for saying it, but this is a person myself where we haven't produced pitching in like 25 years.
Yeah, we haven't.
And this is my defense of this. I don't care. They're not on the major league roster, because if they get me Juan Soto,
they're doing something. That's another form of production. Let's call a spade a spade. What they were able to do with Michael King last year, I've said it several times. I take my hat off to Brian Cashman. That was a stroke of genius. Moving him to the rotation, it was a showcase showing this is what this guy's capable of doing. Right. They believed in him, and they said, well, the Yankees believed in him. They gave him the shot. He looked phenomenal when he was given the shot, and he was one of the headlining pieces, along with Drew Thorpe, minor league pitcher of the year, to bring a generational talent in Juan Soto back to the Bronx. So, yeah, maybe they never produced in pinstripes, but they produced something for the pinstripes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do. So, as it gets closer to draft, I think you'll be we'll narrow down. There hasn't been a really good draft, mock draft. I think Baseball America and who does a great job. If you're
Yes, they
asking
do.
who's the best place, it's probably Baseball America. Pipeline is a little thin, but Baseball America, God bless them, does a really good job. And Joe Doyle, I don't know if you follow him. Joe,
Yes,
fantastic, and his team in terms of out there and looking over there. And he just sent a link last week of free games. I don't know if you guys have ESPN to follow it or pay for it online.
yeah, I
If
do.
you do, you just click on, there's literally 60 games. So, as my son is doing something or sleep, that's usually when I watch stuff. He's either sleeping or something. I could come over here, pop it on, and see, especially the West Coast games, because I do know Oppenheimer does like the West Coast, but it's going to be, I'm a little selfish. That's why, people say, well, you don't want Blake Snell. I don't want to lose 2 picks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. Those are prime picks. If you didn't draft, put it this way, you lost the second round pick. You don't draft Drew Thorpe. Do you get it? Do you get Juan Soto right now?
No.
Probably not.
There's certain reason to this, but I do think this is the year we're going to see some of the fruits of their system and development. I think
Absolutely.
I think Heel, Beater, and I think Warren is probably, because he doesn't have to be edited to 40, still away. But I think, and I even think Mr. Heel needs some time on the farm. I think Beater is probably going to be the first one up because he, not coming off the surgery and stuff like that. But I think we got to see what we have, because we still have other arms, that we're not even mentioning. One of my favorite guys in the farm is Brock
Selvage. And boy, does he look good this spring. He's added 2 or 3 miles an hour to the fastball. He's sitting 95, 96,
and I think
98.
he's only 21, right?
Yes, he is. 22. Just turned 22.
Just turned 22. So you got a kid who could have been still at college, right? Coming over in there. He's probably going to be starting maybe high A or double A at some point. Yeah. So you have guys like him, and then I listen. I know you guys love our development kids, our complex kids, right? The kids down there. Myself, I'm an old school guy. I need to see them up or there. The kid, Arias, and I love how you say Lalani. Is that his name?
Lalane,
right? Like, this is me. Like, I'm, a buffoon over here the way I speak, right?
No, I get it all from Carlos. If I didn't have Carlos,
right?
Lalane is a funny name, though. We're gonna have fun with that when
I call him Lalane.
Yeah,
Lalane.
So,
a lot of people do initially.
Yeah. So you look at those kids, and they're like 6, 7, 8 kids down there who could be like absolutely studs. But for me, and I'm no scout, but the computer scout that I am, I need to see them in higher levels. And God bless them. If those 6 are not, or 8, because you have Tejada, right?
Right. Tejada, Kiner, Cruz, Montero, Lombard, Urea, and Arias.
Yes, and who is the other right-hand pitcher that's tall?
LaGrange.
Right.
That's not how you say the name. I found that out today, but Carlos told me, and I couldn't pronounce it again to save my life. I'll have to find out. But
so you have right there, you name off 6, 7 guys. If half of those guys like really hit it, that's what you're looking for. Because some of those guys, will just fizzle. And I hate to say this, but usually you get hurt or fizzle out. But when you have bulk, you're going to see the potential, and then from the potential, they're going to build from there. And then, like you said, there's the guys still in DR who are going to be coming over them there. We haven't even mentioned Brando Maia,
who
right?
looks absolutely phenomenal so far. He rebuilt the swing.
And there's pitchers, and I go back to this. God bless BA. They have guys down there talking about kids in DR for the Yankees who are hitting 96, 97, 98, and
Angel Benitez,
right?
Chanel Arias, Jerson Alejandro is the other one. he's throwing 100. So
that's the thing. So when you have all of that, it makes it a little easier. And the same thing with shortstop. I mean, like I just wrote the other day, and I've been following him since Kiner Delgado, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Kiner.
I mean, when you have Delgado, you have Lombard, you have Arias, it makes it a little easier. Now, I'm not saying, here's a little hypothetical before we close this up. I thought about this today, and if the White Sox called for Cease, and the offer was Hampton, Arias, and Pereira, that's a lot. That is a lot. Okay? But if you think about it, how much are you still keeping on the farm? And how much you still have on the farm? Now, would I make that trade? If there was other offers, I'd rather make that trade later on in the summer than now.
Yeah.
If I could get that now, I'd do it. To be honest, if I could get it,
I would do it as well.
I do.
And would it hurt me losing those players? Those are 3 top 100 players. But you got to understand, if you want to give something, you're gonna have to get something.
It's gonna hurt.
And God, but the way I look at it, do we have guys like Hampton? I didn't touch Heel. I didn't touch Beater. I didn't touch Warren. And I didn't touch all those kids who are coming up from the 23 draft, right?
Right.
And I didn't. And with Arias, I still have, guys, and I even Rock Reggio, right? I didn't mention him, and all these other guys, and Lombard, who, let's be honest, there was a top 15 preseason pre-draft this time last year. They thought he was going to Vandy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How we ended up with him, I don't know, but it's like us ending up with Spencer Jones. It was just phenomenal.
That I don't know. I mean, I was convinced. If you go back and look at my tweets, I thought that was a move. I thought that was what they call like a shell move, where they wanted to just draft him for losing the pick, so they have another pick this year. When I saw that he signed like at slot, I was like, whoever he's talking to, God, maybe his father just said, like, it's the Yankees, sign with the Yankees.
Yeah.
Good and when you have this, you can make those moves. So it wouldn't surprise me, if you're going to try trade those 3 guys for something high end, you do it, because getting Dylan Cease is what, $8 million, $16 million with the tax. It's not that much. I'm not saying it's going to happen, or anything like this. But knowing Cash's thinking, that's where you're looking at, because you still know if you're drafting well, you're international free agents, you can make like this.
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right, Bobby. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much. We're going to have you back on for a draft show.
Yes.
A little closer to the draft. I can't wait to do that.
To July.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. I'm done with school then. Being a teacher, I'm off this summer, so I can enjoy it. But you guys are top notch. I want to say, thank you for all that you guys do. I mean, listen, thanking you guys. You just came back from Florida, so that's great. But you guys are quality people who talk quality stuff. Smart baseball people to talk to is great content. So thank you very much.
Coming from you so Bobby, much. That means everything. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Smack the like on the way out, guys.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Can't make a promise, but I do my best. 25 sitting on 25 racks. Just got started, no, we ain't done yet. Bought a new crib, that's a goddamn flex. Sign that check. Told them last year that I been up next. Can't take calls, but I send that text. From way downtown, but the shit's still wet.